Anime, in my eyes, is known for one thing above all else: versatility. Magic, military, romance, slice of life, cute girls doing cute things. There's an entire plethora of stories to choose from when it comes to bringing them to life in the form of animation. And whether it brings highs or lows within the community, each story still manages to slowly expand one's familiarity with the medium as a whole, offering a whole new perspective to what we know in terms of modern entertainment. However, from time to time, one will eventually come across a show that goes beyond world building and storytelling and decides to dabble its greasy fingers in a serious topic that has or continues to have a less than favorable impact on modern day society, in a way that not only carries that message to us through action, but leaves a significant impact in the process. War, drugs, assault, and the occasional racist baby, to name a few. Sometimes it's nothing serious, depicted in a light that a viewer can comfortably sit back and enjoy some casual late night entertainment after work, have a meal, and zone out before mentally clocking out. Other times, however, such topics can be taken to such an extreme that you can't help but feel a wave of chills trickle down your spine as your eyes are helplessly glued to the screen, either in fascination, secondhand grievance, or genuine fear. In this case, that all comes in a neatly hand-wrapped package by, you guessed it, a massively racist baby. 86 is an extraordinary military mecha anime initially centered around a war with an army of autonomous drones known as the Legion, and the people who were forced to combat this threat having been stripped of their human rights. This group I'm referring to is none other than the titular 86, a culmination of different races that were cast out of their home country and forced into internment camps, only to thereafter be sent to the front lines of a relentless battlefield. Now, why are they called 86, you may ask? Allow me to explain. The self-proclaimed righteous country of the Republic of San Magnolia is split into 85 districts, all surrounded by an expansive protective wall known as the Grand Mur. The districts are separated by status and economic class, with the capital District 1 housing those of royal blood and high-ranking government status, including military personnel. What you'll notice about these districts is that every single resident is a member of the silver-haired, silver-eyed race known as Alba. Cue the racist baby. As of stellar year 2139 within the 86 universe, the Special Wartime Peace Preservation Act was enacted, deeming every Colorado citizen of San Magnolia, in other words, anyone that wasn't an Alba, a supporter of the Empire of Gia where the Legion initially hailed from, stripped them of their human rights and possessions, and placed them in internment camps in San Magnolia's 86th district, located outside the Grand Mur, which had not been built yet. Subsequently, the incarcerated citizens, now known as 86 to San Magnolia citizens, were forced to do two things: build the massive wall known as Grand Mur around the other 85 districts, and to pilot the M1A4 Juggernaut, a mobile artillery unit resembling a Scorpion equipped with a 57mm cannon designed to fire armor-piercing and high-explosive tank shells, as well as two high-frequency blades, two grapple tethers, and two 12.7mm heavy machine guns. God damn, that is a lot to say in one take. Effectively making it a modern tank in terms of mobility and firepower to someone who's new to operating the damn thing. Now that you're caught up, fast forward to stellar year 2148, where our story officially begins. Now, to anyone who could initially be confused from the first few episodes of the series, 86 is told through two different perspectives, to give you both the perspective of prosecutor and prosecuted. And on the first side of this coin, we have Alba military major Vladilena Milize, or Milize Shosa, because for whatever reason this shit's easier to pronounce in Japanese. Don't cringe too hard, I'm working on it. Relax. Being the youngest person in history to rise to the rank of major at only 16 years old, Lena is the perfect example of a very rare occurrence within the Grand Mur's walls, a decent human being. Not only does she interact with the 86 on a daily basis as part of her job, and is one of the only military personnel inside the wall that takes her job seriously, but she also has a very strong sense of justice, seeing the treatment of the 86 to be unjust, and seeks to do whatever she can to keep them alive long enough to regain their citizenship. However, with this being the case, she often ends up clashing with her fellow citizens over this issue, as San Magnolia has been so far brainwashed into thinking the 86 aren't even human, going as far as to report 0 casualties on the daily news concerning the war effort. Despite this, she's determined to honor those who fight for San Magnolia's survival. On the other side of this coin is the best Juggernaut pilot among the active duty soldiers, 16-year-old Shine Nozin, or Shin, codenamed Undertaker. Being the on-field commander of the most important squad on the frontline offensive, Shin is a deadly force to be reckoned with, recognized for his near impossible maneuvers with the Juggernaut, as well as having a sixth sense that allows him to hear the voices of the Legion, allowing him to detect a Legion attack long before any patrol or radar scan. Given that he has long since been the sole survivor of every single unit he's ever been in, the name Undertaker takes from the absolute trust the rest of the 86 have in him to carry their names to their final resting place through engraving their names onto a fragment of their Juggernaut, as under normal circumstances, the 86 aren't allowed graves. Now, as I previously mentioned, Sheen is the commander of the unit he is is currently placed in, with Lena being their new tactician, or handler, if you will, after the last one, well, broke. Familiar faces such as Raiden Shuga, Anju Emma, Seoto Rika, and Kuruna Kukumira, to name a few, come forth to create a force to be reckoned with. An unstoppable force plunging through a seemingly immovable object. A light-speed arrow tearing through the cloudy mess of machinery and bullets like it's a daily workout session. This arrow is none other than the unit which has become the Republic's ace in the hole, simply known as Spearhead Squadron. Spearhead's precision and tactical awareness on the battlefield, combined with blood-bonded teamwork and impeccable leadership, makes them one of the deadliest forces within humanity's arsenal, so much so that it wouldn't be a stretch to call them demons of the battlefield. Ordinarily, a Juggernaut's mobility is comparable to an ordinary tank, yet Spearhead has spent so much time on the battlefield that they have given rise to the true potential of the cannon on legs, accomplishing feats using skills that would take years to even get the hang of, much less use them in practical combat scenarios. Least of all Sheen himself, who's rather known among his comrades for his signature close quarters combat style and point blank cannon shot, and is able to dispatch the heaviest units the Legion has to throw at him with ease. And yet, despite all the spectacular fight scenes and stunning visuals, one of three of the show's true highlights, with the other two being an ungodly amount of world building, as well as an eerie, epic, and emotional soundtrack, is focused on something off of the battlefield, being the dynamic between Sheen and Lena. See, Lena's already a special case in her own right, given the fact that A, she's an Alba living inside the walls who has seen the cold reality of the world outside the Grand Mirror with her own eyes, and B, she's actually a decent person who wants to be able to connect with the people her country has abandoned, even if it's only one step at a time. And one major sign of this is the regular nightly calls she sends out to Spearhead over the Para-Raid device, which can be summed up as a sensory resonance device primarily used for communications. To Sheen, this comes off as rather unusual, as most handlers tend to just berate the 86 and laugh as they become lambs to the slaughter. However, as time goes on, Lena starts to grow on the members of Spearhead Squadron, enough to make Raiden joke about the rest of the squad feeling lonely when she doesn't call around the time she usually does. What's interesting to see about this is, even with Lena being an Alba and Sheen being a Juggernaut veteran and an 86, they start to become rather fond of spending prolonged periods of time talking to each other, sometimes telling stories about their past to kill time, or what they're doing at the time, and more importantly, how each other and the other members of Spearhead are holding up. And it's easy to tell from a viewer perspective that the more time goes on, even if he doesn't say it outright or doesn't care to admit it, Sheen comes to trust Lena, having faith that she'll stick to her ideals and resolve to not only bridge the gap between the few decent Alba left in San Magnolia and the surviving 86, but to do whatever it takes to survive the rampant assaults of a constantly evolving autonomous threat. The only problem with this being, in her current position, Lena can't do a damn thing about it, and quite frankly, Sheen, despite his exceptional combat prowess, is just as, if not more helpless than Lena. On top of dealing with a significant amount of brainwashing, being constantly told to not get involved, and even going so far as to be berated for her ignorant ideals, only to get told off by the very people she wants to help, Lena spends more than half the currently aired anime series fighting an uphill battle with friends, family, co-workers, and 86 alike, each one in having their own reasons for why they think her efforts are rendered meaningless. Stuck in a position where even if she wants to, she can't do a damn thing to save anyone. Internally, she may already know this, and knows that subjecting herself to not only constant verbal bombardments, but the suspicious anomalies present within Spearhead Squadron, particularly Sheen, that made the past 5 handlers before her go insane, is a significant burden to bear. The important part of all this being, she's alone in her own fight for survival, which is where this dynamic with Sheen is so important. After practically being driven to long for the sweet release of death, having been the sole survivor of every single unit he's ever been in, Sheen's role as the Undertaker leaves him to carry on the memory of not tens, but hundreds of lives, and because of this, has this burning hole of being left alone, left behind by his deceased comrades. That all begs the question of, if Sheen is carrying on the memory of everyone who has died before him, who will be the one to live on to remember his name? In wondering this question to himself, it seems he unconsciously begins to place that burden, that expectation, onto none other than Lena. Despite being on polar opposite ends of just one of 2 conflicts both of them fight every day, they couldn't be more alike in terms of what they have to do to keep themselves going, to reach for the world that they strive for. This is only reiterated in one particular scene, which I will keep as spoiler-free as I can, even if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense at first, that I can't watch without being on the brink of tears. A scene with Lena running with all her strength, with little to no regard for her surroundings, to the east, the direction of the current war front. It takes all of what little strength she has, along with an insurmountable amount of willpower built up over the course of many nightly conversations with her new squad, to reach out to the people she's come to care about, desperately trying to catch up to them in the only way she knows how. Desperate to call out to those who have given her role as a soldier new meaning. Desperate to not watch them die. Desperate to make it to their final destination with them, as if she's been with them all along. As if they're the family she's been searching for all this time, only hoping that if for only one moment, there will come a time when all the efforts she's given to keep them alive weren't in vain, and that those that went before them would be remembered by the ones they were closest to. In turn, 86 manages to create a brilliant divide to not only the duality of the war they fight within the Legion, but within the war they fight within themselves as well. Always reaching out for survival, always reaching out for that long-lost ideal of what the world could be, always searching for the one answer they spent their entire lives looking for, always pushing forward to live and see another day, always moving ahead, doing whatever it takes, whether it be direct insubordination, disobeying orders, taking risks no one else could possibly take, all solely for the minuscule chance that one day, just one day, they might find the one thing they need to keep them going. All for that slight glimmer of hope that one day the moment will come where in a single life-changing moment surrounded by a beautiful landscape, someone will finally call out their name.
お前が頭おかしいのは昔からだが、さっきの戦闘は極めつきだ。
あなたたちの名前を教えていただけませんか。
そもそもあんた、僕たちの本当の名前さえ一回だって聞いたことがないじゃないか。少佐は俺たちのことも忘れないでいてくれますか。
ハンドラーとして私の責任ですから。
少佐はそれまで生き延びてください。俺みたいになりたいわけじゃないんだろう。
そなたこそそれを誰に言っておるのじゃ。
誰かに首をくくられるまで目を背けて生きるような共和国の奴らと同じものになり下がってたまるか。お久しぶりです、ハンドラー1。